as I'd lost my driver's license for a year through scorching at 95 miles an hour around the Oxford bypass, fourth ticket for speeding, to take him and his broken leg to see his point of death, old retired gardener. The gardener's heart had then thumped away insecurely for 6 further weeks, one of life's little ironies. My loss of license now had 3 months to run. The friendship between Martin and myself, unlikely at first sight, had sprung fully grown in an instant 4 or more years ago, result of a smile crinkling around his eyes, echo I gathered of my own. We had met in the jury room of the local Crown Court, chosen for jury duty to hear a fairly simple case of domestic murder. The trial lasted 2.5 days. Over mineral water afterwards, I'd learned about the tyranny of weight. Though my life had nothing to do with horses, or his with the heat and chemistry of my own days, we shared, perhaps, the awareness of the physical ability that we each needed for success in our trade. In the jury room, Martin had asked with merely polite curiosity, "What do you do for a living?" "I blow glass." "You do what?" "I make things of glass. Vases, ornaments, goblets, that sort of thing." "Good grief." I smiled at his astonishment. "People do, you know. People have made things of glass for thousands of years." "Yes, but," he considered, "you don't look like someone who makes ornaments. You look, well, tough." I was 4 years younger than he and 3 inches taller, and probably equal in muscles. "I've made horses," I said mildly. "Herds of them." "The Crystal Stud Cup?" he asked, identifying one of the flat racing's more elaborate prizes. "Did you make that?" "Not that one, no." "Well, do you have a name? Like, say, Baccarat?" I smiled lopsidedly. "Not so glamorous. It's Logan. Gerard Logan." "Logan Glass," he nodded, no longer surprised. "You have a place on the High Street in Broadway, side by side with all those antique shops. I've seen it." I nodded. "Sales and workshop." He hadn't seemed to take any special notice, but a week later he'd walked into my display gallery, spent an intense and silent hour there, asked if I'd personally made all the exhibits, mostly, and offered me a ride to the races. As time went by, we had become comfortably accustomed to each other's traits and faults. Bon used me as a shield in battle, and the children thought me a bore because I wouldn't let them near my furnace. For half the races that day at Cheltenham, things went as normal. Martin won the 2 middle hurdle race by 6 lengths, and Priam Jones complained that 6 lengths was too far. It would ruin the horse's position in the handicap. Martin shrugged, gave an amused twist to his eyebrows, and went into the changing room to put on Lloyd Baxter's colours of black and white chevrons, pink sleeves and cap. I watched the 3 men in the parade ring, owner, trainer, and jockey, as they took stock of Tallahassee walking purposefully around in the hands of his groom. Tallahassee stood at odds of 6-4 with the bookmakers for the Coffee Forever Gold Trophy, the clear favourite. Lloyd Baxter, ignoring his trainer's misgivings, had put his money on the horse, and so had I. It was at the last fence of all that Tallahassee uncharacteristically tangled his feet. Easily ahead by 7 lengths, he lost his concentration, hit the roots of the unyielding birch and turned a somersault over his rider, landing his whole half-ton mass upside down with the saddle tree and his withers, crushing the rib cage of the man beneath. The horse fell at the peak of his forward-to-win acceleration and crashed down at 30 or more miles an hour. Winded, he lay across the jockey for inert moments, then rocked back and forwards vigorously in his struggle to rise again to his feet. The fall and its aftermath looked truly terrible from where I watched on the stands. The roar of welcome for a favourite racing home to a popular win was hushed to a gasp, to cries, to an endless anxious murmur. The actual winner passed the post without his due cheers, and 1,000 pairs of binoculars focused on the unmoving black and white chevrons flat on the green December grass. The racetrack doctor, though instantly attending him from his following car, couldn't prevent the fast-gathering group of paramedics and media people from realizing that Martin Stukely, though still semi-conscious, was dying before their eyes. They glimpsed the blood sliding frothily out of the jockey's mouth, choking him as the sharp ends of broken ribs tore his lungs apart. They described it, cough by groan, in their news reports. The doctor and paramedics loaded Martin just alive into the waiting ambulance as they set off to the hospital. They worked desperately with transfusions and oxygen, but quietly, before the journey ended, the jockey lost his race. Priam, not normally a man of emotion, wept without shame as he later collected Martin's belongings, including his car keys from